Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show on 96.9 The Legend. I am Philip Jordan, the in-studio host and producer of Dothan Wolves football on 96.9 The Legend. Each week, Dothan Wolves head coach Jed Kennedy is joined by the voices of the Wolves, Jerry Coleman and Ken Lambert, to review the previous game and preview the upcoming matchup. When we return, Jerry and Ken will be joined by Coach Kennedy right here on 96.9 The Legend.
Welcome to the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show on 96.9. And coaches, just start out with, you've been reported as saying year three is kind of one of your favorite years, especially at a new program. And just kind of tell us a little bit about maybe what this team this year may look like a little different than the first 2 years at Dothan High.
Yeah, I think, obviously every team's got its own identity, but, I've talked about year three and, the first year, I think that, everything is new and everything is different. And I'll never use the word better because I'm not going to, disrespect the people that came before me and that. It's just different. So they latch on. And then, the second year, you've got kids that, you really start to kind of find out their personalities because when they're juniors, obviously the seniors grab hold of the team. And so in year three, it's like these were actually the first kids I met when I took the job. They were over at Carver 9 freshmen. And we have a very unique situation in Dothan that our freshmen are not on campus. So they really didn't have as many of the maybe influences as the people at the high school with things that we had to change. And it was a small senior class. There was a small freshman class. There was only 23 of them when I took the job. And for 7A standards and for Dothan football, that's not the numbers we want. We still have 20 of them with us. So it's a small senior class, but they've been great kids, great workers, really good players, and certainly excited. So what's crazy is I feel like we brought back a lot of people. I think we returned, I think 14 or 15 starters from last year's team. But what's crazy is we only start 3 seniors on offense. So we're I think I don't want to use the word young because a lot of those kids played, but a lot of them played as sophomores on last year's football team. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's we're in a good position. We'll talk about last week's game in a little bit. But I just think that, we now have kids that have run our offense for 3 years. We have kids that are sophomores that they did it in 8th grade. They did it in freshman. Now they're doing it in sophomores. And those things just start building up and equaling good things for our program. And I'm just excited to see what 2024 means here for the Dothan Wolves.
Ken?
Coach, we'll talk a little bit about last week. Obviously, always good to get the win. I felt like Chiles was a pretty good test for week one. Came out, some big offensive linemen. They played well on defensive line and obviously had a really good quarterback. But tell us a little bit about what you saw week one and things that you guys have been working on so far this week.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it. They were a very good football team. And when we were building this schedule, we wanted to play somebody new that we potentially, may not see later. So that eliminates some people. And, Chiles is a big school, 2,000 kids, and they're very well coached. I mean, they lost to Niceville last year by I think 6 points. Everybody said they're very well coached. They're very physical and really, nothing against, Carroll last year. And that was obviously a great draw being so close, but we thought we had to go out and play another big school. And that if we made mistakes, they were going to expose them. And if we didn't do things good, we were going to find that out. And if there's things we did do good, we were going to find that out. So, I certainly think you learn a lot more about your team on this year's 27-7 win than what we did last year, winning by 50 over Carroll. So, I thought defensively, man, they played good. We tackled well. We covered well. I think our front seven has a chance to be special. We're as big as we've been on the defensive line. We've got, our 2 outside linebackers, Zach Walker and Gabe Smith, have started a lot of football games here, and they're back. And we have 2 young linebackers, and man, they played good. So really excited about our front seven. And we played a lot of guys on offense. And I think people that were at the game, we were very vanilla with our play calling. Just thought that, we kind of had to get good at the basic stuff. And, that's not a game for the trick plays and all the formations and the shifts and those kind of things. So, we rushed for about 300 yards and, we completed 65% of the passes. And, obviously, that was a goal of ours, was be able to throw the ball better and be able to throw the ball more. And thought we did that for the most part. But, we got through relatively healthy, which is when you play a physical game like that, we had some kids that got nicked up. And, the good thing was, all those kids could have went back in the game. We decided to, just rest them up and get ready for the next week. And we were able to do that.
Yeah, I'd made a note of those inside linebackers, young guys. And what I wrote up by the side is physical. They played very physical, really inside. Saw some big hits by Lamine and by Scott, I thought. And then on that D line, you've got some great depth and good rotation. There guys constantly in and out, and you didn't miss a beat with those guys.
Yeah, it was funny. We talked about that in our staff meeting on Sunday was, the last couple of years we've had 3 guys. And, you go through some injuries, then you're moving people around and you can't really sub. You take a kid like Zaya Barr, our nose tackle, he's 300 pounds, 6'1". He's not pass rushing's not his strength. He's a great run stopper. Well, when you only got 3 guys and it's a passing down, he has to stay on the field. And, we think right now we have 5, if not 6 players that can play. I'll tell you, Canoris, everybody knows about Ezekiel Scott. I mean, he's a stud, had 2 sacks again the other night. We moved Jamal Rawl over there. He just a big 250-pound kid. He's athletic for us. Zaya Barra started last year. He's back. And Canoris Ford, I mean, geez. He had a great spring. He had a great summer. And, he's really positioning himself as one of our best defensive linemen. He's only a junior. So, you talked about the linebackers. That was a little bit of a concern coming in. You lose, Marcus Myers started a lot of football games here the last 2 years, and he's playing at Tuskegee now. So, you lose him, and he was so athletic. And, Jadavius Lamine, the sophomore, man, he's special. I mean, he's a scholarship football player. He runs downhill. Aaron Scott's a big Mike linebacker. 5'11", 220 pounds run stopper. So I think, like I said, we're believers that you got to be able to stop the run first. And I certainly like what our front 7 has brought so far in practice in week 1. And we'll find that out tomorrow against a little bit different scheme from Monroe up in Albany, Georgia.
All right. Coach, switching over to offense, I figured you keep AJ out a little bit. Jaden Barnes just picked it up and ran with it, took kind of leadership role, but talk a little bit about, and I may mess this up, but Salathian Meadows, he got a lot of carries, got a lot of touches last Friday night. Yeah,
that was our plan going in with AJ. AJ's a Division I football player. He's got 5 or 6 offers. He's one of the favorite kids I've ever coached. I mean, he works. He doesn't get caught up in the BS. He comes in, works in the weight room. He works at practice. He's a great teammate. And, we got a stretch of games, and I'm not saying we look ahead, but we go Enterprise, Central, Carver 3 weeks in a row. And, AJ Alexander probably needs to touch it about 75 times in those 3 games. And, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We got AJ. I mean, you saw Hardy ran. I mean, got 8 or 9 carries. He could have played in the second half. We decided, you got to get depth ready, kind of like what we did when Tamarian Peterson was an older kid, and we brought AJ along, and that's what we're doing with Salathian. Salathian is unbelievably athletic. He runs so hard. He's so fast, one of the fastest kids in the program. And it was great for him, as a young kid, a sophomore, to come in and, rush for, 100 yards and get a lot of carries. But, he's certainly a name you're going to hear. And, my goal is that he continues to develop, and that allows us to move AJ around and put him back to slot where he was last year. And now we can split Jaden Barnes out. And the more better players you have, the more things you can do. And that's obviously what the goal is.
Well, for a running back that weighs 170 pounds, he looked like he carried 2 or 3 defenders with him every time. So he's a hard guy to bring down. Yeah. So he keeps his legs drumming, and he doesn't run like 170 pounds.
Well, and what's crazy is what we've talked to him about is, he runs a little high at the point of contact. It was, we do a drill called Nutcracker. We do it. That's what we do it every week. It's a physical drill. And, And he came in and I said, Sir Lathan, how do you think you played Friday? He said, Coach, I got to lower my pads at the line of scrimmage. And he came in the first drill on Tuesday when we ran the Nutcracker drill. He lowered his pads. I mean, like an Eric Dickens, I mean, just Walter Payton type, and he said, Coach, that's what it feels like. So he, he's, like I said, he's only going to get better. And, he's, like I say, he weighs 170 pounds, but probably has about 3% body fat. And
Wow.
He'll be another special one that comes through Dothan High when it comes to running backs.
Yeah. Coach, we mentioned on the broadcast when we see him running, as I was keeping track, I think this first carry was -4 yards, but he had a string of carries, 4 yards, 2 yards, 0 yards, 5 yards, -3 yards. And I told Jerry, I said, he's just waiting to break out. He's just waiting to break out. And then that final carry, I think you throw a 60-yard run in there, and then you could really see his speed. And that's when we realized, wow, he's something else.
Well, if he gets in the open field, you will not catch him. We saw that in the spring game. He's the one who had the game at the end, the little toss play at the end where he took it like 80 yards to beat McAdory. And then he had it again the other night. So, we're going to continue to be creative to find ways to get him the football. And, it's, like I said, if we can get this to be a 2-3 headed monster, certainly like what we can do offensively.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about pass blocking. I know you had some sacks and Sam was running there for a while. Was it just more of you think, misassignment up front? I was trying to watch, and I know that they had one really good D lineman that got through several times, and I didn't know that it was.
Yeah, I think we gave up a couple sacks, and, the great thing is everything was fixable. It was never, that we were outmanned or in bad positions or in a bad protection. It's, I'll give you an example. If you have the A gap to if you're the center and you have the A gap to your right and you're helping to the A gap to your left and you don't have a guy there, you've got to keep your eyes on the gap that you have. You can't get your eyes locked in on what's not your responsibility. And I'll tell you, that's what happened 3 of the times was guys didn't have anybody coming through their gap, and they got bad eyes and they brought a pressure late and we didn't see it, and, the great thing to me was we had, they're fixed. That's what we always, and again, that's why you play good teams, that if you make a mistake, they're going to make you look bad. When you play people who aren't very good, you make mistakes and you don't make them look bad, and you kind of get fooled with where you're at, and you don't really, till you watch film, see it. And we saw those things on Friday. Listen, we've got receivers open. We have 7 people in the protection. They're rushing 4. How are they getting people through? So it was great. I'm a big believer. You see big improvements from week 1 to week 2, and certainly know that we're going to pass protect better. We've got a great quarterback. Sam Broadway is he's a competitor. He's got a great arm. We've got great receivers, and we've got to give him time. And certainly put a lot of effort into that this week, and excited about kind of those showing that Friday, being able to throw it, and again, throw it more than what we have.
Yeah, and I know that in terms of in practice, it's hard to recreate that pass rush. And in 7-on-7 drills, I thought, he just needs that game experience to get that mental clock in his head again of, hey, how long I really have to get of this football. And it just takes, some game time to know.
Yeah, it does. We talked to Sam about, he had a couple times where he tried to, kind of escape the pressure to the outside. You can't do that in 7A football. I mean, good teams are going to have an outside pass rusher. And, they had 3. I mean, that was a good football team. That number 5, the big outside linebacker, played a little bit of DN. He's 6'4", 225 pounds, tons of Division I offers. I think he's committed to Navy. I mean, that kid is really, really good. Both interior D linemen, 43 and 0, have got offers. Number 5, the linebackers, is as good a linebacker as we'll see all year. So, I mean, and we did that on purpose of scheduling people like that if you make mistakes, they're gonna expose you. And think about it. If you play a team that you're up 35-0 at half, well, number 1, you're probably not going to throw the ball in the second half. So you're never going to have a chance to, and I don't care what anybody says, and our defense is good, and we do a lot of best on best in practice. There is nothing like game experience against an opponent who are going to throw some things at you that you haven't seen. And if our kids follow their rules and utilize their techniques, we should be able to have all that stuff covered. And again, we've had a great week, and they responded, and certainly excited to see that tomorrow night against Monroe, those adjustments and improvements to build off the great week that we had.
Tomorrow night, the team travels to Albany, Georgia, to take on the Monroe High School Golden Tornadoes. In looking at Coach Herring's first two ball games, they've gone up against good talented teams, but yet have not got a win yet so far this season. They've got 2 games underneath their belt. What are you looking for tomorrow night out of the Wolves?
Well, number one, I was talking when I talked to Coach Herring on Sunday, I said, I tell you what, you're not scared to schedule a non-conference slate. They opened up with, Thomas County Central, who's the defending state champs in Georgia, on the road at their place, which is a tough place to play. And then last week they traveled and played Colquitt, as everybody knows, which is one of the perennial powerhouses in the state of Georgia. And I think we're a pretty good football team too. So they went 3 weeks in a row. So, we're not going to surprise them with physicality. They've seen that 2 weeks in a row. We're not going to surprise them with speed. They've seen that 2 weeks in a row. They've only gotten better. And, there when I talked to their coach, he said, Coach, we thought that one thing we did the previous year was not play tough enough people early. And he said, Coach, we think that after, these 3 weeks are done, we'll be able to play with anybody. So I give credit to their coach for doing that. He's it's an interesting team. They had 26 seniors last year, which, for their school is a lot of kids in their program, what coach had said. So they've got they'll be as fast a team as we play, and they are fast. Oh, great skill. I would think our advantage will be our defensive line against their offensive line. They'll be an empty with no running backs in the game, probably over half the snaps, run a lot of jet motions, play action passes. They've got a big quarterback, looks to be 6'1", 200 pounds. I just, they've struggled stopping the run a little bit, which excites me. But, like I said, I just think that, when we tried to fill our non-region schedule, we had a hard time finding games. And man, I think posted 5 or 6 times throughout the off season. And, I would think part of it's a compliment to our program that, when we took the job 3 years ago and we were filling our non-region schedule, we had plenty of people that wanted to play us, and now I'm assuming, that, the better you get, obviously, the harder it is to find games. So that's kind of how this thing came about. And I love playing new people. I love going to different stadiums. I love playing teams that we won't see again. We have 0 common opponents. We'll have 0 common opponents all year. And, next year they'll travel down to us. So, again, it's to me, it's all about, it's not really about them. We saw the mistakes that we made last week. We need to be better in every single one of those areas because we know what's coming up after this week with the tough region schedule that we have ahead. So to me, that's what's been our focus. It's not about them. Obviously we work on them because of their alignments and things, but this week has been about us and having a chance to, I'll just give you a prime example. We had a couple kids that were new on the offensive line that made mistakes they had not made all camp. And what's crazy is when you turn the lights on and the jersey's a different color, or you maybe don't know the kid who's over there, rather than now stepping with your inside foot, you step with your outside foot, or all of a sudden your stance gets bad. But, the chance to see those things on film and the kids say, man, I can't believe I did that. It gives us a chance to correct those things. And obviously, with the schedule we have this year, we're just going to have to continue to get better each week. And hopefully, again, I know it sounds like a broken record, but it's just, we've got to be better this week than we were last week.
Yep. Coach, you answered my next question, which was, it's hard for us and for me and Jerry when we play schools in Georgia or Florida, for us to get that information. It's not as accessible as Alabama teams. And I know for you, obviously, you get that game film, but usually these first couple of weeks, it is just about, hey, if we just execute our plan. And we even said that one of our keys to the game was if we just execute what we have planned, and then we can adjust on that. But you answered that, hey, it's more about you than it is about the opponent. But schedule-wise, I was going to say, I think you've done a great job as I look and been comparing. I love that we have the open date there in the middle, and playing some good schools up front, but and be able to break it. Obviously, you only have 4 away games. We love that part too. But I look at some teams like Central and some of these others that they have a tough stretch of 5 or 6 games that they're playing. You throw IMG in there for Central. I'm like, they save their open date for the end of the season, and I'm like, that's going to be a tough run for those guys.
Yeah, and that was, that's the thing you always debate here is, everybody has the first 2 weeks open, everybody's got the 5th week, or I should say the potential 6th game open, and then you have the 10th game open. And I'm a believer that, obviously, and some of it comes down to just finding somebody that you can play. I know a lot of schools go through that as you talk to coaches. I mean, you end up having to play whatever week and find a matchup. And it just worked out for us that we, that coach had to, that Monroe, Godby had that opening at the end, because I was trying my best to have us have a break halfway through the year. I think for a lot of things, you kind of can have a first half, second half. If you get kids, I mean, guys, when you go Enterprise, and again, okay, so now you throw Chiles in who's physical, Monroe who's athletic, and then you go Enterprise, Central, Carver, 3 weeks in a row. I mean, if you play football the way football is made to be played, you're going to be sore and you're going to be banged up. Well, it gives you a chance to get some kids healed up, get some kids rested, maybe get an extra day break that you normally wouldn't get, and then you can start that second half of the season. And again, it obviously doesn't get any easier. You come back after the open week and play Opelika, which, I think, if you talk about our region right now, I think there's 6 staffs that are sitting there right now saying, we expect to be a playoff team, and we're one of those. And I think at one point, all 6 of those teams have been ranked in one of the different top 10s throughout the state in there. And again, the great thing is, I was telling somebody, we play a lot of teams ranked in the top 10. The great thing is we're one of them too. And I think that as they look at their schedules, I don't know if anybody's exactly excited to see Dothan either. So again, it's truly the SEC West of high school football. I was talking to someone the other day. We might not only have one of the toughest regions in the state, we might have one of the toughest regions in the country. I mean, the Sports Writers poll came out today. The number 1 team, the number 2 team, the number 4 team, the number 6 team, and the number 7 team are all in our region. That's, if you think about it, that is crazy. It just, in the next, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, we'll play 3 teams ranked, in the top 7 in the state. And again, we love it. It makes us coach our butts off. It makes us practice our tails off. It makes us, you got to play good. You can't make mistakes. And, I always tell people I'd rather be at a place that's got pressure and wants to win than a place that doesn't care. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, we'll kind of wrap it up, but just kind of a final thought from you of any surprises. I mean, you come back, like I said, the McAdor game, played up at Veterans State up at Troy, then you get the kids back all summer. They work hard. I saw the meal that y'all delivered for those players that had 100% participation through the summer. But any kids or anything new, maybe just kind of, now that you've played one game, kind of stepped out that you may have not have thought about or seen before y'all teed it up last Friday night?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and not necessarily that it was with the other night, but it's just it's great for us. We moved into that new facility, and I don't know if you had a chance to talk about that, and we'll have obviously more shows to be able to do that, but to have a nutrition room that our kids are, today we went through 24 gallons of Gatorade. Okay. And you look and say, okay, I don't even know if our old setup, if we have the capabilities to even do that. It was a small locker room. You can't put it where now we have a nutrition room that has, it has 3 6-gallon jugs of Gatorade that were filled, 2 different times throughout the day. So that was 32 gallons of Gatorade. I think there was a little bit left when we left the school today. We do that every single day. So just those types of things, a team room to watch film that's attached to a weight room in the transition time. And I just think it's just, there's a lot of great things going on in Dothan City schools. There's a lot of obviously great things going on in our football program. And, what's funny is, everybody talks about our attendance. I had a coach call me. I'm not going to say his name. He's, actually in our reading, he said, Coach, I saw your guys' Steak Eaters Club. He goes, now I know some of those kids missed, but they still got it. And I said, Coach, that is no misses. That is, if a kid leaves on a Thursday to go to a funeral in Atlanta, he missed. It's not that we don't have compassion for those things. The kid's not punished for that, but he's not rewarded for not missing a day. And our kids do not miss here. And our kids work really hard. I know that we run a demanding program. And, I just think that, when you do that, it also creates probably the toughest thing in our program is when you have kids. We had our parent meeting last week, and we have kids that never miss a day, which is a lot of our kids. all of our kids work hard. So working hard and not missing doesn't always equal playing time. And I think that's the hardest thing, but that's the other sign of being a program that reloads, that doesn't go, hey, we got kids, we win, and when we don't have kids, we don't win. That you're always developing that next group of kids that come in. And, and that's why, it's hard for me to really pick out, kids, because we have a lot of kids. I mean, we've got, I was just telling our coaches right now, our second group on offense. So let's just say you call it the JV, which there's some seniors in there, but this is the best twos we've ever had on defense. It's the best twos we've ever had on offense. Well, our program numbers are up. We now have had these kids for 3 years. They've lifted for 3 years. They haven't missed for 3 years. They've been coached by the same coaches for 3 years, running the same systems for 3 years. When you start stacking all those things on top of each other, you just continue to build as a program. And again, it may not always mean you win more games, because obviously you have, but it's just, we were talking the other day, our JV offense and defense have more things in than they've ever had at the end of the year. And we're in week 1. But when you have consistency in a program, all those things show. So again, I'm just excited, and, not only excited for this year, but, I think as a head coach, you always have to take the long look at everything, and certainly love the direction of where this program obviously is right now, where we came from 3 years ago, and obviously where we're going. I still am a firm believer that we're just scratching the surface of where this program can go.
Well, that'll wrap us up for week 1 of the Jed Kennedy Coaches Show here on 96.9 The Legend. Just a reminder, tomorrow night, pregame, it would be at 6:15, kickoff at 6:30 here on 96.9 The Legend.